Welcome back to Drake Lee. Here we make finance, economics, and investing so simple that even a 5-year-old can understand and an 80-year-old can confidently invest their money. Most importantly, Long provides the most honest view of the investment journey of someone who knows nothing about economics. A quick note, the knowledge shared here is a mix of information we've gathered from many sources and our personal experiences. So if anything is wrong or needs correction, please feel free to comment below. In today's video, we'll talk about all the basic economic concepts that anyone wanting to understand economics must know. I'll make these concepts as simple and easy to understand as possible. So let's get started. Economics is a social science that studies how individuals, as businesses, and governments choose to use limited resources to satisfy human needs and wants. Scarcity here refers to the condition where resources or goods are limited, while human needs and desires are infinite. In economics, we must understand the concepts of supply and demand. Demand is the quantity of goods or services that consumers want and are able to purchase at different prices over a specific period of time. Let's focus on two key details, the desire to buy and the ability to buy. Because demand is not just about wanting goods, it also includes the financial ability to buy those goods. For example, many people may want to buy an expensive car, but only those who can afford it create actual demand for that car. Factors that influence demand include price of goods. Generally, when prices rise, demand falls. Conversely, when prices fall, demand increases. This is called the law of demand. Income of consumers. When income increases, consumers tend to buy more, thus increasing demand. Price of substitute and complementary goods. The price of substitute goods like tea and coffee, where you can choose either, or complementary goods like cars and gasoline, where you need both, can also affect demand for a good. Taste and preferences of consumers. For example, if I liked a bikini design last summer but no longer think it's fashionable this year, demand for that bikini will decrease. Expectations about the future. If consumers expect prices to rise in the future, they might buy more now, and vice versa. On the other side of the demand equation is supply. Supply is the quantity of goods or services that producers are willing and able to sell at different prices over a specified period of time. Just like demand, we focus on two details, willingness to sell and ability to sell. Supply reflects the producer's ability and willingness to offer goods in the market, and depends on many factors such as production costs, technology, and future price expectations. Factors that affect supply include price of goods. Generally, when prices rise, producers tend to supply more and vice versa. This is called the law of supply. Production costs. If production costs increase, producers may reduce the quantity supplied to the market because their profit decreases. Technology. Technological advancements can reduce production costs, thereby increasing supply. Government policies, taxes, subsidies, and regulations can affect supply. Expectations about the future. If producers expect prices to rise in the future, they may temporarily hold back goods to sell later at a higher price. There are quite a few theories about supply and demand, so let's dive into the details. First, we have Adam Smith and the invisible hand. The Scottish economist introduced the concept of the invisible hand in his book The Wealth of Nations, 1776, suggesting that the free market adjusts supply and demand through prices without the need for government intervention. There's Jean-Baptiste Say and Say's law. Jean-Baptiste Say, a French economist, was quite insightful when he proposed Say's law in the early 19th century. He argued that supply creates its own demand, meaning that producing goods generates enough income to purchase those same goods. Next, we have David Ricardo and the theory of comparative advantage. He developed the theory of comparative advantage, explaining how countries can benefit from trade by specializing in the production of goods they have a relative advantage in, which affects international supply and demand. Although each theory offers a different perspective, the essence of supply and demand is that they interact through price equilibrium. Price equilibrium is the price at which the quantity of goods consumers want to buy equals the quantity producers want to sell. At this point, the market doesn't have excess supply, surplus goods, or excess demand, shortage of goods. When prices aren't at equilibrium, the market will self-adjust to reach it. If the price is higher than the equilibrium price, supply will exceed demand, creating a surplus, and prices will fall. Conversely, if the price is lower than the equilibrium price, Demand will exceed supply, creating a shortage, and prices will rise. We can summarize the theory of supply and demand as follows. Demand is the quantity of goods that consumers are willing and able to buy at different prices, influenced by factors like price, income, preferences, and expectations. Supply is the quantity of goods that producers are willing and able to sell at different prices, influenced by production costs, technology, policies, and expectations. Supply and demand interact with each other to determine prices and the quantity of goods in the market, through which the market reaches an equilibrium state. The market is where transactions for goods and services occur between buyers and sellers. Simply put, it's like a marketplace. Here, both parties agree on the price, which is the amount the buyer must pay to obtain the goods or services from the seller. This is also where competition arises. Competition is the rivalry between businesses to gain market share by offering better products or services, or by lowering prices. Sellers want to make a profit, so they must optimize their profit by subtracting costs from revenue. On the other hand, buyers need to consider opportunity cost, which is the value of the best opportunity lost when choosing an alternative. To make it simple, for example, if you have 10 million VND and you are deciding between buying a new phone or going on a trip, if you choose to buy the phone, the opportunity cost is the trip you gave up. On the other hand, if you choose to travel, the opportunity cost is the new phone you didn't buy. Opportunity cost helps people evaluate and manage resources, leading to smarter and more effective decisions. Next, we need to understand GDP. GDP, gross domestic product, is the total market value of all final goods and services produced within the borders of a country during a specific period, usually a year or a quarter. GDP measures the size and strength of an economy, reflecting the total value of all production and service activities in a country, including the production of goods like cars, machinery, provision of services like healthcare, education, and other economic activities. For example, the GDP of the United States includes industries such as technology, finance, healthcare, and consumer services, which is the highest in the world, reflecting the large scale and production strength of the country. GDP is divided into two types: nominal GDP, calculated at current prices, meaning the prices of goods and services at the time of production without adjusting for inflation. Real GDP, adjusted for inflation using the base price of a reference year, which provides a more accurate reflection of changes in actual production, unaffected by price fluctuations. There are several ways to calculate GDP. The production method. This is calculated by subtracting the intermediate costs, like raw materials and services bought from other businesses, from the total value of production. The expenditure method. This adds up all the spending on final goods and services in the economy. The income method. This calculates the total income from all production factors in the economy, including wages, profits, taxes, and rent. In summary, GDP is a crucial indicator that helps measure the size and strength of an economy, allowing us to assess the economic condition, compare between countries, and develop appropriate economic policies. Similar to GDP, we have GNP, Gross National Product. Total national product is the total market value of all final goods and services produced by the citizens of a country, regardless of where the production takes place. Simply put, GNP or GDP plus net income from abroad. Net income from abroad refers to the income that the citizens and businesses of a country earn from economic activities abroad, minus the income that foreigners earn from economic activities within the country. Here's an example. A country A has a GDP of 1,000 billion USD. The citizens and businesses of this country earn 200 billion USD from economic activities abroad. Foreigners earn 100 billion USD from economic activities within country A. In this case, country A's GNP 1,000 plus 200, 100 was 100 billion USD. When talking about GDP and GNP, we also need to understand national income. National income is the total value of income earned by all sectors in the economy, including individuals, businesses, and the government, from economic activities over a specific period, usually 1 year. It includes wages, business profits, income from capital, and income from land. National income is calculated as national income, GDP, net income from abroad, depreciation of fixed assets, indirect taxes. Net income from abroad refers to the income that citizens and businesses of a country earn from economic activities abroad minus the income that foreigners earn from economic activities within the country. Depreciation of fixed assets is the gradual reduction in value over time of fixed assets like machinery, equipment, and infrastructure. Indirect taxes are taxes on goods and services, such as value-added tax, VAT, and excise taxes. In summary, national income is used to measure the total income generated by an economy, helping assess the economic strength of a country, compare with other nations, and formulate appropriate economic policies to promote sustainable growth and development. If policies are not well designed, the economy can easily lead to inflation. Inflation is the phenomenon of a general increase in the prices of goods and services in an economy over a long period of time. When inflation occurs, each unit of currency buys fewer goods and services than before, meaning the real value of money decreases. Simply put, if 10,000 VND could buy you a bowl of PHO in the past, 10 years later, the same bowl of PHO may cost you 50,000 VND. So, inflation is simply the devaluation of money. Inflation has many effects on the economy, such as reduced purchasing power, where with the same amount of money you can buy fewer goods and services. Decreased real value of savings, especially if the savings interest rate is lower than the inflation rate. Negative impact on fixed income earners, such as pensioners, because their income does not increase with inflation. We have already discussed the details of inflation in the video on currency, so if you'd like to learn more, feel free to check out that video. Inflation causes money to lose value, and as money loses value, the rich get richer while the poor get poorer. At the same time, it impacts the unemployment rate. Unemployment is the situation where individuals in the working age population, who are capable of working and wish to work, cannot find employment. This is one of the key economic indicators reflecting the health of an economy, and we need to focus on the following details. A person is considered unemployed if they are of working age, capable of working, and actively seeking a job. We often hear about graduates being unemployed after finishing school or people who lose their jobs, but no one says a newborn is unemployed, or that the elderly who can't work are unemployed, or that someone who refuses to work is considered unemployed. The unemployment rate is calculated by dividing the number of unemployed people by the total number of people in the labor force, and then multiplying by 100. The labor force includes both employed individuals and those actively looking for work. Unemployment can be categorized into several types. Natural unemployment. This includes people who voluntarily quit their jobs for personal reasons or to find a better job, as well as those who switch jobs or newly enter the labor force, referred to as temporary unemployment. Structural unemployment. This happens when there is a mismatch between the skills of workers and the demands of the labor market, like when technology changes. Cyclical unemployment. This occurs due to economic cycles, where a recession or decrease in overall demand forces businesses to reduce production and lay off workers. Seasonal unemployment. This happens due to the seasonal nature of certain jobs like in agriculture, tourism, construction, or when there are fluctuations in labor demand throughout the year. Each type of unemployment has its own cause, so now let's look at the economic impact of unemployment. The biggest consequence is a loss of production capacity, reduced national output, and increased pressure on social welfare systems. For society, unemployment can increase crime rates, as desperation can lead to criminal behavior. In summary, economic measures, education, and social policies need to work together harmoniously to create a stable and sustainable economic environment, reduce unemployment, and improve the quality of life for workers. To effectively manage the unemployment rate, we need to pay attention to the budget. A budget is a detailed financial plan that reflects estimated income and expenses over a specific period, usually 1 year. It can be prepared for individuals, businesses, organizations, or governments to manage finances effectively and achieve economic and social goals. There are 3 types of budgets: personal budget, business budget, and government budget. Each of these reflects clear objectives and has a significant impact on the economy. Budgets help stabilize the economy through fiscal policies, adjusting income and expenditure to control inflation, reduce unemployment, and stimulate economic growth. They also allocate financial resources to important sectors like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and social welfare, ensuring balanced and sustainable development. I want to dive a little deeper into the government budget. This is the government's plan for income and expenditure over a specific period, usually 1 year. It includes forecasts for sources of revenue such as taxes, fees, loans, and estimates for spending such as capital expenditures, operating expenses, investment costs, to meet the government's goals and objectives. The government budget helps the government regulate and manage the country's financial resources effectively, ensuring fair and reasonable allocation of resources and finances. This creates economic and social benefits and reflects government priorities, such as improving public services, supporting economic and social development. There are two cases regarding the government budget. Budget deficit occurs when government spending exceeds income. Budget surplus happens when income exceeds expenditure. In summary, the government budget is an important and complex financial management tool, requiring close coordination between relevant agencies and oversight from the legislature and the public. Understanding the concepts, processes of preparing and managing the government budget ensures that the country's financial resources are used efficiently, contributing to sustainable economic and social development and improving the quality of life for the people. Challenges in budget management, such as budget deficits and public debt, need to be addressed through sound fiscal measures and transparent policies, ensuring the government's accountability to the public. So, why do I want to talk about this? Because I want to discuss fiscal policy and monetary policy. First, let's talk about fiscal policy. This refers to the measures that governments use to adjust and manage the economy by changing tax rates and public spending. The goal is to regulate aggregate demand, stabilize the economy, promote economic growth, and achieve social objectives like reducing unemployment and controlling inflation. To understand its historical origins, fiscal policy has existed since ancient times when governments needed taxes to pay for military expenses, build infrastructure, and maintain public services. For example, the Roman Empire and ancient Egypt used a tax system to fund state activities. In the modern era, fiscal policy became more structured when European nations developed complex tax and expenditure systems to fund wars and promote economic development. For instance, Great Britain developed its modern tax system in the 17th and 18th centuries to finance wars and expand its empire. This policy has continued to evolve and remains in place today, particularly after the Great Depression of 1929-1933. When economists emphasize the government's role in regulating the economy through public spending and taxes. Fiscal policy consists of two main components: revenue and expenditure. Revenue includes all income the government receives from sources like taxes, fees, and other charges. Taxes are the primary source of revenue and come in many forms, such as income tax, corporate tax, value-added tax, VAT, and excise tax. Each type of tax applies to different situations, and we'll cover those in another video. On the other hand, expenditure includes all government spending, which is classified into two categories: routine expenditure, which covers daily government operations like civil servant salaries and administrative costs; investment expenditure, which funds infrastructure projects, education, healthcare, and economic development programs. This is often referred to as non-routine expenditure. There are two main types of fiscal policy: expansionary fiscal policy and contractionary fiscal policy. Expansionary fiscal policy is applied when the government increases public spending or cuts taxes to stimulate aggregate demand and promote economic growth. It is typically used during periods of economic recession or when the economy is growing slowly. In contrast, contractionary fiscal policy is used when the government reduces public spending or raises taxes to decrease aggregate demand, control inflation, and stabilize the economy. This is often implemented during periods of rapid economic growth or when there is a risk of high inflation. The tools of fiscal policy include taxes, public spending, and budget deficits or surpluses. These are used for purposes such as stabilizing the economy by adjusting aggregate demand, controlling inflation, and reducing unemployment; stimulating economic growth by increasing public spending on investment projects, infrastructure, and public services; redistributing income to balance society through welfare programs, subsidies, and tax reductions for low-income groups. An example of fiscal policy in action can be seen during the COVID-19 pandemic, when many countries implemented fiscal measures to support individuals and businesses affected by lockdowns and economic disruptions. These measures included direct cash subsidies to citizens, financial assistance to small businesses, and tax cuts. In conclusion, fiscal policy is an important tool for the government to manage the economy. By adjusting spending and taxes, the government can influence aggregate demand, stabilize the macroeconomy, and redistribute income. However, implementing fiscal policy also faces many challenges and needs careful management to achieve the best outcomes. Another important tool used by the government and central banks alongside fiscal policy to manage the economy is monetary policy. Simply put, monetary policy refers to the decisions and measures taken by the central bank to control the money supply and interest rates in order to achieve economic goals like controlling inflation, stabilizing exchange rates, and promoting economic growth. This policy directly involves money, interest rates, and reserve requirements. There are two main directions for monetary policy: expansionary monetary policy and contractionary monetary policy. Expansionary monetary policy is applied when the economy is in recession or growing slowly. The central bank may decide to lower interest rates, reduce reserve requirements, or buy bonds in the open market. This increases the money supply, reduces borrowing costs, encourages consumption and investment, and helps boost economic growth. On the other hand, contractionary monetary policy is applied when the economy is growing too fast and inflation is rising. The central bank may increase interest rates, raise reserve requirements, or sell bonds in the open market. The goal is to reduce the money supply, increase borrowing costs, and curb consumption and investment, thereby controlling inflation. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, many central banks worldwide implemented expansionary monetary policies to counteract economic downturns. The European Central Bank, ECB for instance, reduced interest rates and increased bond purchases to inject money into the economy and support businesses and households. In conclusion, monetary policy is a crucial tool for managing the economy. By adjusting the money supply and interest rates, central banks can influence inflation, economic growth, and employment. And so, in today's video, we've covered most of the basic economic concepts. There are still many other concepts such as money supply and demand, marginal benefits and costs, balance of trade, perfect markets, and more. These will be studied and explained in detail in future videos. Thank you for watching the video, and if there are any mistakes, we hope you'll leave a comment below. For now, Drake Lou says goodbye, and see you next time.